Garland in the corner. He's got it.
Feeds Nance. Pow with the running in. Mitchell shakes. To the basket. And thunders it home.
Oh! Mobley throws it down.
And Allen blocked the shot at the rim.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers have extended their winning streak to 4 games, handling a 3 games and 4 nights stretch with a comeback win over the Chicago Bulls. Joining me today is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. It really felt like it was going to be one of those games against Chicago where, I mean, that first half effort was just really bad. And, you know, Chicago, who, you know, had to that point been the class of the East and kind of the story of the season in the East so far, had lost 2 in a row. So you were like, or had lost, you know, 2 out of 3, I think it was. And, you know, might have come in a little hungrier than the Cavs, who were riding high after an ass kicking against the Wizards. And I felt like the Cavs kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit in that first half. And it was just so nice to see the nastiness they played with in the third quarter physically to kind of immediately reconnect in a game that they were not really super connected to. And then, you know, fight their way into a closing run to finish them off. So a lot of really cool stuff. A lot of like flexes for a team that like can play about as bad as you could play. Like I really do think that first half was the worst half I've ever seen Donovan Mitchell play of basketball.
So. At least as a Cavalier.
And he finishes with 29, 6, and 6.
Yeah, I want to put a pin in that because I have a lot of thoughts and feelings regarding what Donovan was able to do in the second half. But you're right. In my eyes, it was a quality win. Chicago's been playing well. They've gotten some good wins under the belt. They beat the Knicks once and almost beat them a second time. And this winning streak's been kind of fun because Chicago is one of the stories of the East, as you said. Philadelphia is one of the stories of the East. And yes, obviously, Philly was missing some guys, but I still think that these are quality wins for where the Cavs are currently at. And I think it shows resilience for them to come back in the way that they did. Before we dive a little further into the game, I do want to send my condolences to the family of Lenny Wilkens, member of the Cavs, not only as a player, but as a coach. Passed away today. The news broke. So condolences there. Anytime, we lose a member of the Cavs family, it's a sad day, but I do appreciate any time news like this comes, that there's so many kind of record keepers when it comes to, Cavs Twitter and stuff like that. Like I've already seen so many great stories and anecdotes from before when I was locked
alive
in as a fan. yeah, and that too, alive and locked in as a fan. And I really appreciate that stuff. It just goes to show how sports and the results that we have in these individual games, it so often transcends those games when it comes to the fan experience.
Yeah, huge condolence to the Wilkins family, to the Cavs family. It's a huge loss, a guy who really made a true impact on the game of basketball. And there's not that many guys that you could really say that about. Like it's a short list and a short company he keeps. And you're right. That is one of the few silver linings is getting to watch people reminisce about days that I don't remember, but that are really special to them. And, you can't help but think like that's probably going to be us, 20, 30 years down the road.
Just sitting there fondly, hopefully not still tweeting. That would kind of disappoint
I hope
me.
Not.
But communicating somehow, just reminiscing days of Donovan raining shots in the third and fourth quarter against the Chicago Bulls while a long-haired Darius Garland celebrates on the sideline.
Oh my gosh. That really is the most pressing news of the evening was Darius's flow. Out there looking like Milli Vanilli.
It's the second time I've been wildly surprised by how someone looks on the sideline. The first time was when Max was wearing a Tim Misney's hoodie, which was just absolutely phenomenal.
It's been a real sideline year for the boys.
Yeah, really enjoying it. But one guy who was not on the sideline was Dean Wade, which really nice to see him come back so quickly. I thought he gave them good minutes. Obviously, there was no DG against Chicago, giving him a little bit of a rest game. But it's nice to see not only were they able to win without Darius Garland, but they were actually able to put together a good offensive effort. And the last 3 games that the Cavs have had are their 3 highest offensive rating games of the season. 125.7 against Philly, 141 against Washington, and 125.5 against Chicago. Their only other time that they've been over 115 or even at 115 was their previous game where they played against Brooklyn. Every other game, the offense just has been abysmal. And the first half against Chicago was pretty poor, right? Like it looked like, hey, the offense is kind of regressing, particularly in that second quarter. I like the way that they started the game, but the most disappointing aspect of that first half, in my opinion, was the defense. And we had a little bit of a discussion in game threads where it was categorized as concerning. And I was sitting there being like, it's not concerning, it's disappointing. Because I know they can do better than this. I've seen how they've been playing defense this year. I see how they've played defense over the last few years. I know they can do better than this. Therefore, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. And I was much more pleased with how they came out in the second half.
It feels like the Bulls kind of are like the litmus test for like how engaged your defense is. Like Ayo Dosunmu is built in a lab to just drive past flat-footed defense. Like there's a decisiveness, and I think that's one of the reasons the Bulls have been so good this year and really challenged the Cavs, even with a guy like Buzelis having a very, very bad effort for what has otherwise been a stellar season. Is they do kind of remind me of the early Oklahoma City Thunder in this one very specific way, not most ways, but in this one specific way, which is just constant rim pressure. And that's something Josh Giddey is really good at. He just drives over and over and over and over again. And a guy like Dosunmu just keeps getting to the rim. Trey Jones likes to get to the rim. So there's just like a lot of that constant pressure on the ball. And if you're not locked in defensively, this is what it's going to look like, Yeah. So really nice to see them answer the call after a pretty brutal first half. Only allow 50 points in the second half. Just a total change in engagement. And really, I think that's mostly what it took. Like, because with no Darius, they still they had 5 of their 6 best defenders, maybe 6 of their 7 best defenders on the floor. Like, this wasn't a matter of of personnel. They just needed to do better. And the second they decided to lock in, they did.
Yeah, and that's one of the dirty secrets of an 82 game season is sometimes nights can be attributed to, hey, you just got to do better. Whether it's we got the looks we wanted, they just didn't fall. Sometimes it's an effort thing. Sometimes it's an execution thing. Sometimes you're out there making mental mistakes. And to me, it was really encouraging that you're playing 3 and 4. You're traveling between each of those games, right? You know that that's a tiring situation at the best of times. Particularly tiring early in the season where these guys are still getting their legs under them, right? Like the first month of an NBA season really is almost functionally the preseason. And I think that's why teams that are relentless like Chicago can get off to these early starts, right? Some teams are just trying to get their sea legs under them. And when you run into a young team that's engaged, that's going to really take it to you, you can lose some games early and those teams can be a bit of a surprise. I think we saw that with the young Cavs back in the day where they were just better conditioned to start the season and they got off to surprising starts. So for the Cavs to be tired, to fall down by a good amount by the end of that second quarter, and to come out with a considerable effort to start the third quarter where you could tell they wanted to attack the rim. First possession, Donovan's going at the rim. He kind of does that vintage Donnie D Wade over the top dribble, floater. DeAndre Hunter attacks. And then from there, Evan Mobley just took over. Like, he was relentless attacking the basket, whether it was as a cutter, whether it was getting offensive rebounds. He assisted on a bunch of those buckets. And in my eyes, this game is almost exactly what I want to see from Evan Mobley. I think this is the exact type of game that matters so much for Evan Mobley, because Mobley attacking in the third quarter there, and really just his usage all over the game. But in that stretch in particular, he helped bring the Cavs back into, a one-score game. So Donovan was able to then take over, right? Like, Donovan didn't have tired legs in the fourth quarter because he had to drag the Cavs back to even, right? It was, oh God, Mobley took care of this for me this time. I'm now as my shot's starting to fall, I can just kind of cook, and now I can be that relentless force that Chicago can't account for. If this Cavs experiment's going to work, you're going to need to have those types of performances, whether it be from Evan or whether it be from Darius.
Yeah, I mean, really what they need is like guys who can get them out of malaises, and who can like just take over for 6 to 7 minute stretches. That's what we see all these great teams be able to do, is they have 3 or 4 or 5 guys that can all of a sudden flip a game. And like, I do feel like that's where the Cavs have a real abundance of riches. Like, you can quibble with like how often those kind of takeovers can happen sometimes. Like, there can be these kind of collective malaises sometimes with this team, but like DeAndre Hunter can keep them in connection the entire first half, pretty much getting a bucket, whatever you want. Mobley can come in and that also in the first half and be great, but also in that third quarter and help carry the offense through a fallow period.
So damn important in the first half, like particularly in that second quarter when
Sam had
was
8
working.
assists in this game, bro.
He was so damn good in this game, and that 3 he hit right before the half to keep it at 13, like that was a really, really important bucket. But like, he played such an important game, and that little stretch where he just kind of kept the Cavs within, underneath 15, right, where they can get into that Austin Carr range of just get it under 10. That's exactly what I want to see. They had so many guys step up in this game where there were stretches where, just as a collective, they couldn't get it going.
Yeah. Yeah, really just an encouraging game. Sometimes you have these games where you have to come back late and expend a bunch of energy and you feel really frustrated at the end, like, finally, but like, I don't feel like that was this game. It felt like an embarrassment of riches game of a, like, the second we turn it on, like, this Bulls team knows they can't hang.
Yeah.
And like, it was really, really cool to see. It was obviously Jaylon took over late in this game and had yet another freaking stellar performance. Finishes with 17, 7, and 3. Like, it's really, really exciting to kind of see this team finding their sea legs in a way that, like, I guess I want to ask you this, because I was feeling pretty angsty, 5-6 games into the year. It just, nothing felt like it was clicking. And like, we've played games without Darius. We've had stretches without Darius before that felt a lot better than it felt. And then all of a sudden you look up at the 10-game mark and they're top 10 on offense and defense. Was it stupid to be worried, or do we think they found something kind of like through the malaise?
I don't think it was stupid to be worried, just because the types of struggles that they were having were stuff that we were kind of already keeping an eye on, right? Whether it was, do we have enough ball handling to get to the rim consistently? What does an Evan Mobley leap look like, right? So when you see struggles in those particular areas, I think it's reasonable to have some concerns. I don't think, I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think that the concerns that you were feeling was, hey, this might be a tough regular season for us. Like, things might not turn around. There's a really, really high bar this season because of what they did last year and what the expectations are and what the opportunity is ahead of them, right? You don't want to have a lost season. Lost seasons can happen to just about any team. Sometimes in the pursuit of trying to become a contender, you can take some steps back, even if you feel like you're better on paper. So I don't think it was unreasonable, but I do think what you've seen, even in that game in Chicago, I think, or against Chicago, I should say, I think that was a really, really important example of this personnel can do it. It's just sometimes they're going to have to expend a little bit extra energy, right? Like they're really going to have to emphasize getting to the basket, attacking from the perimeter, cutting, being structurally sound and finding those guys and playing with pace, playing with a purpose, right? Because if they did what they did in the second half at 80% speed, those same opportunities aren't going to be there. So I think Darius does make things a whole lot easier. I think we've very, very clearly seen that. But I think the lessons that you learn in this stretch are still really valuable. It's a reminder that as talented as this team is, they do have to be locked in order to execute, because the league is just as talented. Like if you are not bringing it on a nightly basis, almost any team in the league is capable of putting it together and giving you a real challenge if they're giving you their best punch, which the Cavs are going to get every team's best punch. If they let a team hang around and it's the second half, those teams are going to start thinking, hey, we can get a statement win here. This is a real opportunity for us.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. I think here's where I think I might have just been wrong to be overly anxious, and it's always the most dangerous when we're confirming our priors. Like that's the most dangerous evaluation point, because you just never know whether it's your emotion or your confirmation bias telling you what's happening. And I was worried about the ball handling and the ability to get downhill, and I feel like they are in kind of real time figuring out how to play with this adapted personnel. And even when they had some decent quarters here or there in the first 5-6 games of the season, I think the reason I was not feeling good about it was I didn't love their process. I didn't feel like I was seeing the defense get into rotation that much. It just felt like the shots happened to be going in, like we've mentioned, kind of Celtics ball, but without Celtics personnel. And I feel like they're figuring out how to stretch out defenses a little bit better, with whether it's Evan burrowing for deep post position, whether it's the dribble handoffs, whether it's Jaylon Tyson running a quick pick and roll with Donovan Mitchell to get him slipping towards the hoop. But I feel like they're starting to at least find their road towards how do we get the defense in rotation absent crazy dynamic on ball play. And maybe and it feels like they're figuring it out. It's hard to know. The sample is so small, but doing it against a Bulls team with a lot of really dogged point of attack defenders and just a lot of guys with a lot of tools on the defensive end of the floor, that felt meaningful to me.
Yeah, they got to where they wanted to. And it is a small sample, but so what were the struggles earlier in the year? And I think the most encouraging thing over these last 4 games is it feels like they're starting to stack successes, right? It feels like they have learned from what they were doing wrong, and they're moving better together. They are finding ways to be productive. Everyone's settling into their roles. But Jaylon Tyson was fantastic. He really, really was awesome in this game. And the cojones on this guy to knock down those shots late, the poise, the decel on the fast break, which really made me nervous. I had to go back and rewind that one just to double check.
I don't know. The decel might be a bit of a charitable.
Oh, no.
I guess he did slow down.
I 100% meant that in a charitable way. Nothing about that was intentional, but it was really, really funny that he at least did not travel in that spot and was able to get the finish. But I just thought he was making really, really savvy plays out there. And talked about Sam knocking down shots in the second quarter. You know who else hit some really big shots in the second quarter, keep them connected? Tyrese Proctor.
Yeah.
Like he hit those 2 really big timely threes. He gave them really good minutes, I felt. Was obviously awesome against Washington, but just kind of
Thought he had another nice defensive game as well.
Just up and down the lineup, it feels like guys are settling into what their roles are and they're performing better as a unit. I feel really, really comfortable. And when we're dealing with a small sample, which is the first 10 games of the season, it's important to recognize that we do also have a pretty extensive track record of this group. And when the high watermark stuff, when the stuff that they're doing well resembles what we've seen them do so many times, to me, that lands a whole lot more than isolation almost feeling unstructured basketball, because that has not been what this group has been.
Yeah, that's fair. It is nice to see. And like it feels like the car is running as intended right now, for the majority of these guys. Like Dean goes 1 of 5 from the field, and doesn't have a great game, but like makes a timely block, does his job. It's not one of these crazy Dean nights, so he plays 18, 19 minutes, gets out of Dodge.
Yeah,
you're down.
Big put back on that Donovan miss late.
Yep. Yeah. You've got Darius out. All right. DeAndre, Evan, we're gonna need some extra usage. How is 19 field goals on 30 attempts sound? And a bunch of timely shot creation. Jaylon, we need you to kind of hit the spot up threes that come, attack and transition, and do a little bit of playmaking. Sold. Well done. 4 stocks for him as well. Just kind of feels like everything is clicking for these guys in the spots you kind of need them to. And then when Darius has been back, it's kind of felt like, all right, now the Death Star's engaged.
Yeah, they are definitely finding their groove, and we know how important that is because teams move fastest when everyone's in sync. Zoom Workplace helps meetings, chats, docs, and more, keeps them together so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace.
Justin, I have one person that I do want to talk about that I don't say I'm worried about, but I would say the fit hasn't felt quite where you want it to be yet.
We need imaging for Carter's therapy couch.
Why?
Anytime that we do this segment where you're feeling angsty and you're going to express your feelings to me, we need to get some music. We need to. I don't know if we need visuals for it or what the deal is, but let me know your pain.
Well,
Carter.
it's actually funny because I don't actually feel that angsty about this player, even though I don't think he's playing to the standard that he's set for the vast majority of his career. That's Lonzo Ball. The scoring has just been really rough. Rougher than I expected it to be. Goes 1 of 4 last night. Didn't score against Philly either. And it does feel like they're still figuring out how he's supposed to help them on a night-to-night basis. And I do think he's one of these guys that, you really want it. You kind of almost need him paired with one of the 2 dynamic guards at all times because of his limitations as a scorer. And I think to some extent his scoring productivity is going to come and go based on whether the 3-pointer goes in. But he's also just not getting almost any easy buckets as a cutter or in transition, because he can get those free runs. Like when you watch his tape, even with Chicago last year in the 20 or so games he played, it was all threes or cut layup dunks. And he's not really getting a lot of those. It just I'm not angsty about it. I saw, there's, especially because Okoro was killing us. I think there was a little bit of that was creeping into the fan base. It just kind of feels like he hasn't really found his steady footing of here's exactly how I'm going to help on a given night. But I'm not freaking out about it either.
I think that's fair to say, right? And part of the whole Lonzo discussion, even when we added him, right, was, hey, as much as this is a bet on Lonzo, it's a bet on other guys too, right? Stepping up, whether it's Sam Merrill, Jaylon Tyson, or whomever. But the whole reason why you take this gamble on Lonzo Ball is because you believe that the upside, if it does click, could be really meaningful. And I think we've seen those flashes. We've seen those stretches where, hey, the playmaking really does unlock things, right? The passing has been brilliant, but it's going to be about figuring out how can we get a little bit of a floor to what he's bringing offensively, at least as a scorer, because the other stuff feels like it's there. Just, I guess it's tough when a guy's not going to be a priority as an offensive play finisher to kind of schedule in some of those plays to get him a couple easy looks or a couple baskets, right? So I understand where you're coming from. I feel you. I certainly feel better just looking at the progress of someone like Jaylon Tyson, right? Because, hey, if you're in a situation where Lonzo doesn't have it on a given night and you're fully healthy and you have Max Strus, you have DeAndre Hunter and Sam Merrill shooting the hell out of the ball, you can probably just go, hey, all right, well, Jaylon Tyson's going to be getting those minutes tonight and Lonzo's not going to be playing. So in a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of Cavs Rubio, where just the scoring isn't there, but he's bringing other things to the table. It's just the Cavs have a little bit more depth now, right?
And I mean, Rubio's scoring was much better than what we've seen from Lonzo so far, like by a lot. And that's okay. Again, I'm not like pushing the panic button, but I will say, like, I think we should be feeling really, really good about what Jaylon and Sam are bringing. Because I think it's helping. Because, like, right now, like, if you look at this roster, at the end of the day, and we spent all offseason talking about this, it was basically a swap of Okoro and Ty Jerome for Lonzo and Larry Nance Jr. That does not look like a positive swap right now in terms of what we've seen on the floor. I would say Isaac last year played better than Lonzo's played this year so far. And Ty certainly has outperformed. I mean, Ty was bananas last year. So I found it to be unlikely even Ty, if he was back, would have even come close to that level of production that he gave us last year, because it was like a bananas, unprecedented amount of production. That hasn't really been there. I just feel like we haven't felt it that much because Sam has been so insanely good. I never thought Sam could be this good, by the way. I don't think he's ever played this well as a Cavalier.
Isn't he leading the league in true shooting percentage?
I believe that is true.
I think he's the most efficient player in the NBA, despite mostly taking threes.
He took a step back midi in rhythm off the bounce. And like you said, he made
some great passes.
Yes, 8 assists.
He's really been helpful
against the Bulls. So he's been great. Jalen's been great. And I feel like those guys both being, and not like Sam wasn't in the rotation last year, but those two being as good as they've been and as impactful as they've been in the box score. And that does matter, the impact in the box score, because that's something Ty really had to his name. That I think it's made it not feel as painful that that Lonzo and Larry are still kind of finding their sea legs.
Yeah, and I think it's part of the equation too, right? Because even going back to Summer League, you would get quotes from Kenny Atkinson saying, hey, Jaylon Tyson's going to be part of our rotation this year. Like, I just have a gut feeling that Jaylon Tyson's going to be part of the rotation, right? So clearing out, Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro, Jaylon Tyson's part of the equation, right? Like that is part of the calculated risk that they were taking, bringing in veterans that could potentially help them in other ways, right? And I thought Larry was really good to start the season. He had a couple of tough games recently. I think the last two that he played were not his best, but I've liked what he's brought overall. Lonzo, as I said, it's going to take some time to figure out what we're doing offensively there. He started to have that stretch where he was hitting more threes, but now it kind of seems like he's in another one of those cold funks. It's funny. You're right that Rubio's efficiency was better, but it's talking about, going from 24% to 34% is basically
Yeah,
the
but
difference we're talking.
24% is pretty bad.
It's pretty bad, right? Like it's
I think Lonzo, and I'm not here to like kick dirt on anyone. Like I think Lonzo, again, I'm not super worried about Lonzo. I think he's going to find a way to be helpful, and he's already finding ways to be helpful, even with the offense, with the scoring struggling this much. So if he doesn't have a very high, I don't need him to get to 46% from the field for me to feel good about Lonzo. I just don't feel actively bad about him just yet, because I want, I think that stuff is going to find his way, but it is still a material difference.
It's worth pointing out, and I think this goes back to what you're saying about early season stuff confirms our priors, right? And because I'm a big fan of the way that Lonzo Ball plays basketball, because some of the passing he's done has been so brilliant, I'm willing to kind of ride the wave when it comes to the ebbs and flows of his shot falling. But you're right. It doesn't seem like he's comfortable yet. And that almost makes me feel better, because if it looked like, oh, he's getting to his spots, he knows what he's doing offensively and nothing's falling, that would be different than, oh man, like he's kind of overthinking this right now when it comes to his shot. He's pressing in transition, jacking up some shots. It almost reminds me of Jaylon Tyson to start the year, where just some of the shot decisions were almost more concerning than the results, right? So I think it's fair to bring up, but I'm not too worried just yet.
No, me neither. And like at the end of the day, that's where because really, functionally, Jaylon Tyson has replaced Isaac Okoro, and and that means Larry has functionally replaced Tristan Thompson. And I think you're really a net upgrade there, pretty comfortably. Yeah. And you're getting just enough from like someone like Sam Merrill that you're not terribly feeling the loss of Ty Jerome right now. So obviously easier to feel this way during peacetime when they've won 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. I had some questions to start the year, but if the offense keeps rising the way it is, a lot of my anxieties are going to be assuaged.
It also feels better when DeAndre Hunter is out here scoring 29 points of 10 of 16 shots.
Actively injuring other players' ankles,
sending
just
Josh Giddey to the shadow realm on the cross,
and then yamming.
Jeez, like he was awesome. Like he's really, really, really great to see DeAndre Hunter cook in that way. He has just felt so comfortable as a scorer out there. And a funny thing has happened this season, Carter. DeAndre Hunter has played 32 possessions with the core 4. Last season, he played 72.
Wow.
So we are actually up to 105 total possessions for DeAndre Hunter in the core 4. Nice to see we are over the 100 possession mark. In those minutes, they have a 134.3 offensive rating and a 100 defensive rating. So that is a plus 34 net rating for you, buddy.
Yeah, and it feels really, really good when those guys are all playing together. When we got to see that starting lineup card and all, the 5 that we kind of wanted to see starting the year being together, it just felt right. It feels like Hunter really can be unfair in some of those lineups. Like I think you said in our Discord group chat, you were just like, man, like how ridiculous is it that this guy is our 5th option?
Yeah.
And
or 5th guy in the lineup. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever, the 5th of the core, of the starters. And like, that is like what you want as a team builder. You want to have these layers of attack just coming at you. And like, God, this guy's killing us now. Like we're barely scouting him at this point because we were spending so much of our scout trying to figure out how to deal with Darius and Donovan. And, I really want to see how teams, especially now that we've seen the lineup, I want to see how other contenders try to contend with these starters. Like if you go play the Knicks, are they going to try to hide Brunson on Hunter, or are they going to say, deal with Darius, and then you just run pick and roll at Cat all day? What do you do with the Denvers of the world? Like, there's just so many teams that have at least one weak link in their starting lineup that you feel really comfy attacking. And I think the Cavs are really, really well equipped to do that with the starting lineup.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's you just know that when Darius and Donovan are out there with Evan and Allen, like there's just so many options that you can go to, right? Both guards are able to run a pick and roll, the big passing. There's just so much attention that they can draw. Having a guy that's a tough shot maker that seems to be learning and playing even better off of cuts. Like I've actually really enjoyed some of his non-spot up shooting stuff that he's doing out there. Even the way that he was attacking the basket in the third quarter, it felt meaningful. Having him as an option there is awesome. Like it really, really opens up a lot of possibilities, particularly if Max does come back and Max plays like himself. That just gives you two options that you feel really, really good about. Not to mention that Jaylon Tyson has really been holding his own and has been looking great with those guys too, right? So all of a sudden you just have better and better options on the wing around what we feel is a really good core, a championship level core.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want to have.
Yeah. It's, this is the team I kind of had in mind in terms of their flexibility, ability to play a bunch of different styles. Does the lack of drives bother you still?
I just don't feel like there's been as few. Like
no, that's true. They're not. I still think there's more side to side pressure than there was last year.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't really. To me, I'll answer my own question first. Like, and this is what was my thesis going into the year with this roster is if you can find a way to get downhill any sort of way and catch the ball with an advantage, I don't really care whether it's done via a dribble drive like Chicago Bulls do, or whether it's through, motion and clearing space and slipping and, all the, and whatever the road is. So like, I'm not super worried about like just a lack of downhill drives over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily needs to be that, right? Like looking at the Cavs last season, they're about middle of the pack in drives. I think that's kind of where I'd like to see them, right? Because they do some of their best work swinging it around on the perimeter. And sometimes, if they drive and they kick out to the far corner and then that ball rotates around and all of a sudden Darius, is splashing that three, that's not going to get recorded as a drive. Because the play didn't end as a drive, right? So I feel like they're attacking the basket more. Mobley outside of the 3-point shots, almost every shot he took was within 3 feet.
Yeah.
And, like he was getting to the basket at will and finishing at a high level. DeAndre Hunter was getting to the basket. And, with Darius, it's so encouraging to see him come back. And there's just no...
He looks so good.
It doesn't look like it's limited at all. He is getting around guys. He looks way more physical than he was before, where, guys will collide into him and he's not the one that's falling off his center of gravity. Like he's kind of absorbing those blows better than I've ever seen him do. He played terrific against Washington. The numbers are pretty awesome. So Carter, so far this season, when Darius is out there with Donovan, they have a 132.4 offensive rating and a plus 32.7 net rating.
Feels
when
like
Darius, when Darius is out there on his own without Donovan, it's a 131.6 offensive rating and a plus 21 net rating. Like he has come in and he's doing exactly what he did last year, where he is elevating the offense, and I feel like it's been infectious. I think Donovan's been playing really, really great basketball, and I feel like Mobley's getting more comfortable. And when you have Darius making things easier, when you have Evan settling into what he's going to be offensively, that it just makes sense that Donovan's life is made easier offensively. And then the trickle-down effect is DeAndre Hunter is now able to find his spots. And Jared Allen's able to find his spots. And Jaylon Tyson's getting good spot-up opportunities. Like, everything just feels like it's coming together for this team.
Man, a healthy Darius, I just think we really... there's something mystical about Darius that causes us to forget what he is at his best when he's not at his best. And, even though I think this podcast are the preeminent Darius Garland defenders of anyone in the discourse, even
I think you can just call me Minister of Propaganda at this point.
Even I forget. Like, I know intellectually, But then when I see him moving and just like carving up the defense and getting into this empty space, getting into open space and creating gaps and causing panic, I'm like, oh yeah, Carter, you idiot. Of course the offense didn't look good against Indy. They didn't have that. Like,
Yeah.
like I just feel like even I forget just how devastating he is at his best when he's not at his best. And I don't feel like I feel that way about other players. Like, I feel like, and I don't know if that's just because of the way he's been limited these last couple years, where it's been these longer stretches of pain, and like the fact that, you know, and this is always going to be true, given his frame, given some of his physical disadvantages, just that are, you know, inherent to him. He's got less margin for error physically. You know, LeBron can run around on a swollen ankle and still be a freak. Like, you know, Darius, I don't know if it is ever going to have that, but like, I feel like I've got to do a better job of reminding myself of like, no, this is the standard. What we've seen from him these last couple games in terms of his ability to impact things. Anything less, like, I have to really question like what's going on.
Yeah. It's just been so nice to have him back. You know, I was predicting before the season that we would get Darius back after 10 games, right? When I was explaining medical timelines for recoveries on the podcast, I was like, you know, that game on the
Schedule explaining.
Yeah. You know, I live for that stuff. I thought, hey, miss 10 games, come back, and I kept saying 7-3, then DG, right? Like, and that's exactly where we're at. Only we've got Darius back before that, and he looks good. It looks like there's going to be less of an integration period. I still expect him to have some games where it's like, he just doesn't have his legs right now, right? Like that is early season basketball at the best of times. I expect it with him. But I think we're seeing that he just raises the floor of this team, and we know what he also does to the ceiling, and that really matters. And I was actually thinking about, you know, part of why DG is such an endearing player and why I've been such a big fan is because we've seen how far he's come, right? Like when you look at that rookie season where you have people writing that he's the worst player in the NBA, and you know, you had basically someone that you were kind of hoping, I'm not doing this to bug you, but like a DJ Augustine type situation, right? Where, hey, maybe he can be a bit of a floor general. There seems to be a little bit better feel as a passer than we expected, but is he going to be dynamic enough? And I just kept seeing those splash plays after splash plays, and it just felt like the ceiling was raising and raising, and then the impact became undeniable. And I was kind of thinking, like, when I see Jaylon Tyson hitting those big shots against Chicago, no, I don't think he's going to be on a DG type trajectory. He is an older player. It's important to remember that as well. But part of why I find him to be so endearing is because I saw the starting point for Jaylon Tyson, right? And when I see a player like that very clearly, you know, all these guys work hard, but when you see someone come that far when they're already in the NBA, it just goes to show you how damn hard these guys have been working, right? And I just feel like, yes, Jaylon Tyson has some limitations, but I don't question his effort when he's out there. He is giving 110%. He is trying his ass off on defense. He is competing every single minute that he's out there. And to me, it's just so evident how hard he's been working. And I was just kind of thinking, like, man, he's resonating for me. I really want to root for this guy. It's really easy to root for this guy. And it just made me think back to a lot of kind of those same traits of why DG has landed and resonated for me as a player.
Yeah, I mean, I totally see where you're coming from. I do think it's a very, very different kind of player and a very, very different type of ceiling we're talking about. But and even like, I just think like the natural savantness of Darius, you know, like it is on another level. But I'm think
just talking about work ethic more
but we're
so
seeing
than, like,
Jaylon figure things out, and figure out how to be helpful. Like, it doesn't hurt that he's shooting the cover off the ball, and we do have to like acknowledge that as a practical reality here. Like, if he's
coming back to earth,
if he shoots 35% from three for a month, a lot of these 17 and 18 point games all of a sudden turn into 10-point games or 9-point games, and maybe we don't feel as good about them, but the fact that he's helping on the boards, the fact that the stock numbers are staying up, and like, again, I don't know if it's. I'm trying to like. I really need to like keep a closer eye in the coming weeks on his defense, because it feels like the blow-bys aren't the same problem they were to start the year.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's him changing his strategy or if the Cavs are playing better, so I don't notice as much.
I notice the off-ball stuff more than the on-ball. Like I don't notice the like kind of blatant perimeter blow-bys, and I think some of that too is just like to start the year when it was Donnie, Sam, and Jaylon. Like that was kind of the 3 worst rated from a tracking data standpoint perimeter point of attack defenders that the Cavs had last year. Like it was just a little bit too much to ask that group. I just feel like it's a better context now, right? Like I just think he's not covering the most shifty player on the court with, unless you count when he was defending Tyrese Maxey pretty well. So maybe there is progress coming on ball, but I just feel like he's in a better context. Like there's a couple plays against Chicago. I know he lost Kevin Huerter on the strong side corner once, and a few other kind of off-ball plays. But I feel like his understanding of defense is improving, and the mistakes are becoming a little fewer and fewer.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I really do need to just keep a closer eye on it, because if he can just hang, all he has to do is be able to hang on that end of the floor. And because his natural timing for steals and blocks is going to be there, so he just can't be like frankly ruinous to the defensive integrity, And I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying like he needs to be
That's
functional. He needs to be fine and functional from a fundamental perspective, and just not get run off the floor by these fat, quick-footed guys. So overall, feeling really, really good about Jaylon. Overall feels like a good recovery from like, and I know it's easy to say, yeah, of course they're a good team, they were gonna bounce back. When you're beat up and you start off bad, and if you just drop a few games just cause, like they could have easily dropped that game to the Hawks, they could have easily dropped that game to the Sixers, and then all of a sudden you're looking at a really rough start. And then it's like, then the team's asking, what's wrong with us, why can't we get there? And like these things can spiral really, really fast, even when your team is good.
Tissue on that kind of stuff.
Like it just happens. We have so many teams that all of a sudden are having the year from hell, and you don't know why. And so the fact that they've just kind of completely restabilized, like if you'd asked me, given the circumstances that we have to start the year, if I'd be cool with a 7-3 start, I'd be like, that sounds like a median outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to be that, well, I thought they played very, very bad basketball for 6 of those 10 games relative to their standard, feels like an absolute win. The fact that the back half of this is coming with them playing closer to what I expected to see from them in the first place, all the better. So a big test here Monday and Wednesday with games against the Heat
in Miami.
The meanest double road game trip to fans in the entire world, in all of sports, one could argue. So it'll be a real test of these guys' maturity to come out and like continue to stay sharp against a Miami team that has really revamped their offense and is a lot better than I think anyone expected.
Yeah, they've been playing really good basketball, and that's kind of been, a trend with these recent games, right? Whether it's Philly, whether it's Chicago, and now Miami, these are teams that seem to have an identity to start the year. Jaime Jaquez is playing really good basketball. Jovic is playing really well. Bam's playing really well. So it is going to be a real test, and it's just another opportunity, right? We said coming off of the win over the Sixers, let's see how they do handle this back-to-back, right? You got a road back-to-back in Washington. Really easy to have a letdown game there, or a disappointing game that it lingers too long and then it has an impact on the next night against Chicago. They handled that test. Now let's stack some more successes. Let's go out there and win both of those games against Miami. We will be going live post-game after the second Miami game on Wednesday. So make sure you guys are liking them, subscribing to the Cavs YouTube channel so that you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.